and Merry Christmas, everyone. This is the Malamut Law pregame show ahead of Eagles, Giants, kicking it off Week 16 in the NFL. Thanks for joining us. We hope you guys had a beautiful, lovely, and incredible and very Merry Christmas, of course. I'm Mark Farzetta, along with Bill Colarulo, Legal Hands to the Face podcast in Philadelphia, the Philly Sports Power Hour, and Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner joining us today. First off, Seth, good Christmas. All merry and bright in your world?
It's all perfect, man. No issues, nothing. Just a beautiful day in Arizona, 60 degrees and sunny, baby.
So you already golfed today, like an early morning tee time?
No golf. I'm locked in on football, baby.
Fair enough. Bill, very Merry Christmas for you, I hope.
It's been a great Christmas so far, but I'll tell you what, if things don't go the way they should go in the next few hours, it's not going to be as good as it should be, my man. So let's hope the Eagles, let's hope they take care of business.
You can't bet your Christmas on the Eagles, man. Stop it.
Today I can. We'll get into it, but I'll be shocked if the Eagles don't take care of business today, Seth.
We're gonna get real into it, but I did start out today with the nice little tweet for everyone. You know, basically I said Bon Natale for everyone except Tommy DeVito. And if you go through Tommy DeVito's game logs, if you watched him, you know the guy gets sacked a lot. I think it's going to be a big factor for today. But before we get into the specifics, to the nitty-gritty, to all that stuff, I got to ask this question. I don't need your official prediction or anything, but it all ends today, right? All the BS, the 3 straight losses, either bad play calls or bad reads from Jalen Hurts, all of that stops today, right? The turnovers, all that. The Eagles win this game today, and we're able to enjoy that Cowboys lost a little bit more that they suffered yesterday, and the Eagles are able to take over, first place, official, separate themselves from the Cowboys a little bit. It all ends today. All that BS and bad stuff, that ends today, right, when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles?
It should. There's been so much swirling around this team, for the last, 2 or 3 weeks, and they haven't figured out a way to get on track. Especially last week against Seattle. I mean, they had that game right there in their grasp. The Cowboys lost last week. We just couldn't stand prosperity and go ahead and take, what the gift that they gave us. And now here we are on Christmas Day. They give us another gift on Christmas Eve. And we damn well better step up, and take this one today. This is a team that we're so much better than. It's not going to take our best, but, it's going to take us going out there and doing what we got to do early in the game to show this team that they have no chance at hanging around in this football game. And if there's ever a time for them to get better, to get well, all the good teams you've seen, they've had 2 to 3 game stints throughout the year where they've looked good, and then they got tricked up for 2 or 3 games. The Eagles, are no different than everybody else. They've had their problems the last 2 or 3 weeks. This is the time against 3 teams that they should beat. Well, 2 teams that they should beat, in the last 3 games, and they should walk away from this, undefeated. There's no doubt about it. If they're problematic, with these 2 teams over the next 3 weeks, then the Eagles' problems are way, 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 way bigger than we ever could imagine or, we could have, anticipated.
No, I'm certainly right there with you. Bill, as far as your confidence level, they'll put all that bad stuff in the rearview mirror. How confident are you that today will be that day where they almost have, so to speak, get-right games to close out the season?
I'm pretty confident. I don't know why I'm confident, because this team really hasn't given us any reason to be confident in them. But when you look up and down these rosters between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New York Giants, the Eagles are head and shoulders more talented than this Giant team at almost every single position, if not every single position. And Tommy DeVito, great story for our North Jersey Italians. But when you really take a step back and you look at Tommy DeVito, the guy's only averaging 17 points a game in his 5 starts. He's been sacked 27 times in 5 games. The Giants' offense with Tommy DeVito at quarterback have only put up over 300 yards of total offense once. And they've put up under 200 yards of total offense twice. But the way they won those 3 games in a row is 12 turnovers the defense took away. So Eagles got to protect the ball today. So I do have confidence when you look at the rosters. But I will say I don't want to keep it all positive, because the one area I do have concerns is all week you heard from Jalen Hurts, Brian Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Nick Sirianni. We need more explosive plays. No! We need to take what the defense gives us. We need to go methodically down the field. Going for the big play is what got us in trouble in Seattle. So I didn't like that was the message that all of them said this week. So that's one area I'm not confident. I'm hoping they're just saying that and they're going to go on nice, long, methodical drives down the field. But that go for the explosive play mentality is hurting this offense.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And Seth, that is one of the things that Bill just mentioned. You heard from Brian Johnson, you heard from Nick Sirianni, you heard from Jalen Hurts. And it kind of started this question throughout the week. And we even talked about it on the post-game show, last week, where we were saying, is this Jalen Hurts and just terrible decision-making? Or is this the way that the plays are being coached, where he is starting only and always with the deep ball and then working his way back through every single progression? Is every single play call like that? From what it looks like, here's what we can determine. At least Jalen Hurts, he wasn't going for pass interference. That wasn't the number one option there, as Nick Sirianni kind of alluded to earlier in the week. But Jalen Hurts said, yeah, it's an option, but that's not exactly what you're going for. That's not first and foremost. But when it comes to the decision-making, how much, Seth, do you put on Jalen Hurts' shoulders versus what he is coached to do as a quarterback?
As far as listen, I've got this saying that I've held close to the vest for a long time. An old coach told me this. He said, what you see on the field is either being coached or it's being tolerated. Okay. So what's really alarming to me is you got Jason Kelsey that's saying the same thing. You're an offensive lineman. Yeah, we want explosive plays, but there's a methodology of how you get to explosive plays. And when teams understand that that's how you're trying to operate, is that you're looking for the big plays, then you're going to get a lot of, quarters coverage. You're going to get a lot of too high safety. You're going to get a lot of that. You have to force defenses to give you the looks that allow you to get that. How do you get that? You get that by taking what the defense is giving you. You get that by running the ball and running it efficiently and effectively. You take the short to intermediate routes, you move the chains, you try to score every single possession, whether it's 3 or whether it's 7. Preferably, you want 7. You want to get down into the red zone area and begin to convert in that area at a high percentage again. If they can do that, that's their game plan for winning. You're not going to get the explosive plays, the big plays down the field just because you want them. And then, you're playing complimentary football when you play that way, because there's nothing wrong with that 15-play drive that they had last week that culminated in a touchdown. There's nothing wrong with, the 16-play drive that got stalled out, by the penalty. You got 10 points out of it, and you were up 10-0 in the game. What is wrong with that methodology of that's how you're going to operate? And now your defense stays fresh. Your special teams aren't put in precarious situations. I don't understand, if that has been your mode of operation all year long, and you will admit, from Jalen Hurts to Nick Sirianni to Brian Johnson to even players on the team, that they haven't played their best game. They haven't hit their stride. They haven't been able to do on offense on a consistent level what they really want to do. If that's the case, do you keep banging your head against the wall, this wall of explosive plays and big plays? Do you continuously do that, knowing that teams understand that that's what you want and they're going to take that away? Or do you take what the defense is giving you? Score every possession that you can possibly score, dominate the time of possession, and turn this into a 7 to 8 possession game. There's nothing wrong with that. If the objective is to win the football game, who gives a damn how you win it? Whether you win it with explosive plays or whether you win it by, 5, 12, 10 to 12 plus play yard drives. Nobody cares. You just want to win the game. You're in a 3-game skid, and the things that got you in trouble, you continuously tried to do over the last 3 weeks. Make the adjustment. Being a great head coach and a great offensive coordinator and a great defensive coordinator is all about making the adjustment where you have to. There are going to be games where they're going to be able to get the explosive plays and win in that manner. But there's also games where things aren't going that way, and you see the coverage and you see how you're being defended. In that moment, you got to make the adjustment. You have to.
Yeah, and Bill, I know you and I have talked about this before when it comes to that forcing of a big play. I look at this a lot, and it's a baseball analogy, but I believe it really applies to all sports. It has to do with forcing it. And when it comes to baseball, you're talking about how home runs are supposed to be accidents. You can't try to hit home runs. That's usually when you end up striking out or popping out to the catcher. In football, it's the same type of thing. That's where you end up start throwing those interceptions. And 2 weeks ago, we watched our old friend Dan Orlovsky break it down on ESPN, talk about how the Eagles were forcing things. And then this Seahawks game happened where you see them forcing the ball downfield when they're up 4 points in the fourth quarter with 8:15 left to go in the game, and they try to bomb it out to Quez Watkins down the middle of the field. The ball is underthrown. It gets picked off. Same thing happens on Jalen Hurts' last throw of the game where they're trying to at least get into field goal range. He doesn't see Kenny Gainwell leaking out there, and he tried to force it down the field to make the big play. But, Bill, when these coaches talk specifically, not just Jalen Hurts, but when the coaches talk, and this is how I lean more towards it's being coached, Seth, to your point, instead of just being tolerated. You look at this Eagles offense, Bill, and they keep on doing that same exact thing where they always talk about getting the big splash plays and limiting turnovers. If you're forcing the big splash plays, Bill, you're going to end up giving the football away at an alarming rate, similar to what Jalen Hurts has done this season and what this offense has done this season. So where do they find that happy medium? Because I'll agree with Seth, when it comes to methodical and long drives, as you were talking about as well, oh my goodness gracious, they feel like they have been few and far between. And when they do enjoy them, and the Seahawks game is a perfect example of that, they do a lot of the things that we call for, whether it's motion, whether it's throwing to a running back out of the backfield, whether it's establishing the run, and then they get away from it. So where, Bill, do they find that happy median in being able to find that long sustained drive and that offense that is not giving the football away at an alarming rate?
It doesn't make any sense, Farzi. And as you're saying, it makes even less sense when you talk about Nick Sirianni constantly preaches you have to protect the football. And now you have an Eagles team that has a -6 turnover differential on the season. That's 23rd in the NFL. So, yeah, you want the explosive plays. That's all they keep talking about. But if you're also saying in the same sentence to protect the football, it doesn't make sense that they are forcing the ball down the field. And this is where I have an issue with some of Brian Johnson's play calling and play designs, because you look at the Miami Dolphins, a prime example, or even the Cowboys yesterday in that Miami game. They had explosive plays, but you didn't have to necessarily take deep shots to get them. You hit a guy on a crossing route that's done properly. You've seen it with Tyreek Hill. You saw it with CeeDee Lamb. That yards after catch, which A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can be really good at, if the play is designed properly, can turn into an explosive play without you taking that deep risk. But I love the methodical drives. The fact that they talk about all the time, oh, it's not realistic to go on a 15-play drive. That's been Nick Sirianni's mentality. It's the same reason they play defense so passively, because their mentality is, we want you to try to go 15 plays down the field. But Seth talked about the one that Seattle had, in the beginning of the game, the Eagles against Seattle, that 15-play drive, and said, he didn't have a problem with it. I loved it. Not only did I not have a problem with it, I loved it because you have a defense that, let's be honest, stinks. The Eagles defense stinks, Mark. They're 22nd in the league in yards against, 26th in the league in points against. They're the worst defense on third down. They're the 28th worst defense in the red zone. So why would you not want to go on long, methodical drives and win the time of possession battle and keep the weakest part of your team, its defense, on the sidelines as much as possible? So it doesn't make sense to me. And when you talk about it being coached, Nick Sirianni has said it repeatedly at press conferences about what he wants in this team. So it's not making sense to me that they're coaching that to these players. And maybe it's Christmas. We'll all get our wish. The Giants are 29th in the league against the run. Wouldn't it be nice, Mark and Seth, to see a game where they actually establish the run early, stick with the run, and win football games with the run? Because you look at, they went to the Super Bowl last year, top 5 rushing offense. They won the Super Bowl in 2017, top 5 rushing offense. Seth says it every week. You win football games in this league by being balanced and having an ability to run the football. It's Christmas, Brian Johnson. Let's let's give the fans what they want. Let's run the football today.
Farzi, I'll say this. If you go all the way back to the Dallas game, and I'm looking at my notes here, the Eagles beat the Cowboys. They had 3 series of 11 plays or more. They scored a touchdown on all 3. Against the Chiefs, they didn't have any long drives at all. Really, the longest drive that they had a touchdown on. It was 9 plays. The second longest was a 7-play, 2 7-play drives. You fast forward, to the Bills. They had, 1 explosive series, a double digit plays. They scored a touchdown. So this theory that you can't score touchdowns, on long drives doesn't make sense. It doesn't fly. The Eagles against the 49ers, the first 2 series, 12 plays. Unfortunately, they had to settle for the 2 field goals. They weren't effective in the red zone. And then, they had some more in the second half, but by that time the game was pretty much over. And then, the second, Cowboys drive is the same thing. The Cowboys had 4 series of double-digit drives, and they all resulted in points. The majority of them in touchdowns. The Eagles had 1, and it resulted in a field goal. Okay, and then obviously, the Seahawks, you got the first and the third, and then the first out of the half, they went 11 plays for 75 yards and scored a touchdown. So this theory that it doesn't work, it doesn't ring true. There's no validity to it. And then at the other end of the spectrum, people have been talking about, where's Jalen? Where's his culpability in all of this? Okay. If the mindset is explosive plays, then he's always looking for explosive plays. So he's not going to be looking for those layups that are underneath. This requires, and you guys know Jalen Hurts is not the type of guy that's going to go lone wolf. He's not going to just line up and say, "Hey, I'm throwing it deep this time. I don't care what. I'm throwing it deep. We need 3 yards for a first down, but I got one-on-one with A.J. Brown out here, so I'm going to take the 50-50 shot." That's what he's being coached to do. So this backlash that we're having, it all begins with the coaches, because while the quarterback has to go through his progression and has to make right decisions on the field, the coaching staff is who facilitates that during the week of preparation and in your meeting time. If you're not telling him, "Hey, look deep," there's nothing wrong with looking deep, but understand where your safety valve is. If that guy, if he's double teamed or he's well covered, I know that you had, situations in the past where you throw a 50-50 ball up and you expect for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to make a play on it, okay? But we can't live like that anymore, because that's not fruitful and that hasn't been working. Take your look down the field. If it's not there, let's come back to the check down. The quarterback should know where his outlet is at all times. And I will continue to say it, because the rhetoric continues to get louder and louder, the worse and worse that this team has played over the last 4 weeks, that, Jalen is regressing. Jalen is looking a lot like Carson Wentz, when it all fell apart. Understand, this is the mindset. This is the mindset of the staff. And until they start to, explain to him and communicate to him that we're going to methodically go down the field, you're going to continue to see this. Carson was trying to make the big play. Carson was trying to erase the ghost of Nick Foles. Okay, there's a marked difference. There's no comparison whatsoever when you think about the leadership, the mindset, and the capabilities of playing the quarterback position, and where Carson Wentz fell off and what you're beginning to see in Jalen Hurts. It all begins and starts with how he's being coached and what he's being told to look for in the game plan.
I agree with everything you just said. And the biggest reason I have confidence in Jalen Hurts, even more than what I had in Carson Wentz, is what's between the ears. And Jalen Hurts, we've been joking about this for 3 years. The guy's on mental steroids. That's how mentally tough this guy is. But I want to go back and focus on the one term you used, Seth, and because I think it illustrates a good point about other quarterbacks, is that sometimes you do have guys that aren't maybe team-friendly guys, that are me-first guys, and they do go, quote, lone wolf. Where's the line for a guy like Jalen who knows that that big play isn't exactly what they need? And the best example of it, and Bill, you and I have talked about this one before a lot, when you talk about that play at the end of the game against the Commanders, where they aired it out to A.J. Brown down the sideline. They ended up getting the touchdown. A.J. Brown then unfortunately gets the taunting penalty. Next thing you know, the Commanders come back, and you're playing a longer game than you need to. It's a tougher game than it should have been. And then in this game against the Seahawks last week, in the fourth quarter, they're up 4 with 8:15 left in the game, and they air it out to Quez Watkins. We spend a lot of time, I feel, trying to discuss who has final say over this, play calling, defensive play calling, offensive play calling, front office moves, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie meddling and all that. But I think one thing that is just always undeniable is that the quarterback has final say over where the football goes. If it's a passing play, obviously, he has the final say over where that football goes. So, Seth, do you feel like Jalen Hurts is behind-the-scenes political savvy enough guy to just come off the field and say, yeah, the first read didn't feel like it was there with Quez, didn't feel like he had enough separation, or maybe he waits for Kenny Gainwell to leak out of the backfield into the flat where he could get 10, 15 yards, get you into field goal range for Jake Elliott at the end of last week's game. Do you think Jalen Hurts has that part of his, office politics behind the scenes to be able to get away with not going for that big play, even if he's coached to do it?
I'm not so sure that he's the type of guy that's going to deviate from the game plan. I think if they practice all week in the mindset and the communication between Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson to him is that this is what we're looking for, even when he has autonomy to make changes on the fly, to step up to the line of scrimmage and survey the defense and see an opportunity. Okay, he's going to make the right decision in my opinion. But sometimes those decisions are already predetermined. If you get the look that you want, he's not looking for anybody else. That's why he doesn't see the other guys as open. He looks at the situation, and great quarterbacks do that. They look at the situation and say, okay, if I got a one-on-one situation, I got zero coverage. Okay, where's my best matchup? Where can I take advantage of this situation? Okay, and he's going to look at A.J. Brown 9 times out of 10 and think that there's not a single cornerback in the National Football League that can cover his number one wide receiver in a one-on-one situation, and that's where he's going with the ball. Everybody else winning their battles be damned. That's where he's going to go with the ball. So he is not making these decisions as far as on his own. These are game plan decisions that have been talked about throughout the week, okay? And when you see him take the ball, not look the safety off, or not look the rest of the defense off and then come back over here, you know that he's already predetermined where he wants to go with the football. That's not winning football. It's not winning football on his part, and it's not winning football on the Eagles coaching staff to put him in that mindset that that's the way he's going to think in certain situations, okay? The ball has to go to the open guy. I don't care where he is. His job as a quarterback, like he said last week, is to be the point guard. His job is to distribute the football. And it's his job to look at the defense and understand what he's looking at and go beyond just A.J. Brown. And I get it, A.J. Brown's a bad dude, okay? But it's his job to go beyond that and say to himself, okay, if A.J. doesn't win right now, where do I go? What's my other option? Who is the other guy that I know that I can count on to win his battle? And get off of him right now and get the damn ball to the other guy. That's part of playing quarterback. That's part of being an efficient offense. And I believe in a lot of ways that is why this offense hasn't operated along the lines that it operated last year, because he's being told what to do. He's being told where to go. The game plan is dictating it, and he's not going to deviate from that.
Mm-hmm. Bill, I don't know how this is hitting your ears, and I don't disagree with what Seth's saying, but this is more about what the Eagles are doing, because I think Seth just described rather eloquently what the Eagles are doing and how they're coaching them. But at what point does common sense become common? And when you have a lead,
it ain't so common. It ain't so common no more, Farzy.
It's I always say, Seth. I say common sense is just barely common enough to be called common. But where do they stop making these mistakes where this isn't part of the game plan? This isn't part of the coaching. The coaching should be, hey, do what we need to do to win here. Like, for instance, if you have the ball late in the game and you're driving and you can milk the clock a little bit more and you can continue to have the success that you've been having at different points in the game with those long, methodical drives and running the football, then where the hell is that? Where's that common sense kick in, Bill?
Let me say one thing right quick.
Okay,
I believe that there's tremendous pressure, not only on Nick Sirianni, but on Jalen Hurts from upstairs and the analytics department to operate in a certain way. Because I can assure you, if Doug Peterson had to go in and give an explanation every Tuesday or Wednesday morning for why he did this and why he did that, Nick Sirianni is certainly doing the same exact thing. So the pressure is huge.
Yeah, I'm not going to completely absolve Jalen Hurts. He needs to play better, but Seth's exactly right. If that pressure is coming from the top and it's coming from not only Nick Sirianni, but upper management on how you're supposed to play this game and things you're supposed to do, that's the philosophy. That is what they practice every single day. That's what they're talking about in the film room. So, look, you can't absolve Jalen Hurts entirely, but it definitely is not just him. This is the entire organization's philosophy. And I also think the play designs, and I know we're going to get to John McMullen in a second, but I also think the play designs leave a lot to be desired. You look at last year, and this is what I was talking about earlier about explosive plays doesn't necessarily mean you have to throw the ball down the field. They were in the top 5 in yards after catch last year. They were averaging 5.8 yards after catch on every single completion. This year, they're 25th in the NFL at 4.8. That's play design to me. That is not scheming your players open to get the ball in space to be able to do things after the ball is in their hands. Personnel hasn't changed. You still have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert was out for a little while, but you still have all the same personnel. That, for me, comes down to play design and offensive scheme and game planning.
All right, we're going to